Philly ended up making basically every adjustment I expected them to. We talked about how they hunted ISOs too frequently, especially against Jason Tatum, which didn't really make a ton of sense to me. And we talked about how they needed to shift their focus to hunting Boston's bigs because they run such a deep drop coverage. And that might be the best way for them to get going at scores. And that's exactly what they did. There were still some ISOs, like both Paul George and Tyrese Maxey went at Derek White quite a bit early in the game. Paul George posted him up on the left block. Tyrese hit a couple of fadeaway mid-rangers on him. Paul George seemed to like the Peyton Pritchard matchup for some post-ups. So there was some matchup attacking and some ISO ball in there, but the volume from the one-on-ones shifted dramatically towards ball screens, which is what I thought was the smart approach going into game 2. They took 14 shots in ISO in game 1. That went down to just 6 in game 2. And they went at Boston's bigs constantly. After taking just 19 shots as the ball handler in pick and roll in game 1, they took 32 shots. Sorry to interrupt the video, guys. If you've made it this far, it would mean a lot if you would just take a second to hit that subscribe button. As the ball handler in pick and roll in this game and generated most of their catch and shoot threes out of ball screens. And that 32 shots out of their pick and roll ball handlers, that matched their season high for a single game in this entire season for Philly. And it wasn't pretty at first. Like VJ hit a little easy pull-up jumper against the drop, and then he missed his next one. Tyrese Maxey started ice cold in this game, but they ended up finding their rhythm. They were super efficient. They ended up scoring 37 points as a team off of those pick and roll ball handler shot attempts. That's 37 points on 34 or 32 attempts. That's a really, really high efficiency for pick and roll shot creation. That's typically for most teams below a point per attempt, and they were well over a point per attempt. All three of their guys had moments against the drop. Like after being cold early, Tyrese Maxey was incredible and ended up actually closing the game with a couple of nasty pull-up threes out off the top of the key. And got an and one on a drive late in the game. Paul George did a good job of getting downhill and like getting into the chest of Nimi Keita in his drop coverage. He drew a foul and had a layup on one. And then VJ Edgecombe, man, this is really the theme of the night between him and Scoot Henderson. These like super athletic guards in these settings, they just seem comfortable getting to their spots. And this has been really the story of the last few postseasons. If you kind of look around the league, like even just little things like why Ben Mathurin looks comfortable in a playoff game, right? Like if you have an athlete, these games tend to look like chores, don't they? Like, look at that Lakers Rockets game. That was a chore, man. And like, for the most part, it's all just super difficult. And so when you have a dude who's just an apex athlete, they tend to look like they're the most comfortable players out in that setting. And that is a real asset. And VJ was just incredible tonight. An efficient 30 points. Hit some big catch and shoot threes, which we'll talk about in a minute off of these actions. But he did some really impressive drop coverage scoring in this game from all three levels. Pull-up threes, he got to the rim all the way once. Some pull-up mid-rangers that were like open ones against drop, and then other ones where he'd like snake the pick and roll and hit like a tough one against like a pretty solid contest. Like really, really high level scoring out of pick and roll from VJ Edgecombe in this game. And that consistent scoring caused a specific reaction from Boston's defense in the form of them helping from one pass away. So like ball screens where they get towards the middle, they would aggressively nail help off of the opposite wing. Ball screens that Boston successfully iced, so like the ones where they forced them towards the sideline, they would just kind of pinch in off of the corners. And Philly was just relentless with those simple swing pass. Come off the ball screen. Oh, Quentin Grimes is right there. Boom. Easy catch and shoot three. Come off the ball screen towards the corner. Oh, VJ Edgecombe's right there. Boom. Easy catch and shoot three. Like VJ hit 4 of those catch and shoot threes in this game. Just an amazing performance from him. But that was the story of this game offensively for Philly. Like they beat the drop coverage and they beat that first helper out of the drop, which gave them a lot of high quality catch and shoot threes. And that led to an incredible offensive performance from Philly. Like Synergy logged their half court efficiency at 33 points better per 100 possessions from game 1 to game 2. And it won't work every time. Like they won't always shoot that well, but I think specifically for Philly in this matchup, attacking Boston's drop coverage is their best shot to consistently sustain offense in this series. The other two things we talked about as adjustments for Philly from game 1 to game 2 were their transition defense and then their low man rotations in pick and roll. And they rectified both of those. After allowing 38 points on layups and dunks in game 1, they allowed just 31 in game 2. So they did a much better job of containing at the rim and not fouling as often. then that also helps play Boston into more threes, right? And playing Boston into more threes, that leaves you the opportunity for variance. Boston went cold. That was a big part of how they won the game on the other end of the floor, right? And then after allowing 41 transition points from Boston in game one, they allowed just 13 in game two. It wasn't perfect. Like, there was an early possession where they just didn't get matched up again, and they left Derek White wide open on a kick-ahead pass on the right wing. And I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, here we go again. But they settled down, and they, for the most part, had that under control. And overall, I just thought their ball pressure and defensive intensity in rotation was really good too. Like, of Boston's 39 catch and shoot 3-point attempts, Synergy logged 26 of them as contested, which is a great percentage. So basically 2/3 of them were considered contested, as opposed to game one, where that number was close to half. And I thought they also made a really good use of passing lane closeouts as well. So like, Boston will have these like interchanges where they'll run a ball screen and Philly will tag, and they'll end up swinging it to the opposite wing. And a lot of times, like, the extra pass to the corner is where the wide open three is. But instead of closing out to the wing, they'll close out between those two guys. And all of a sudden, like, Derek White will catch on the wing and he'll look to make the pass, but suddenly there's just a dude right there. And it can kind of like create this little bit of indecision and can kind of cause some of those drive and kick sequences for Boston to just come to a screeching halt. I just thought it was a really good defensive performance for Philly. Give them credit. They played a great game, and they stole that one on the road. On the Boston front, they tend to have a game like this in the first round every year, it seems like, where the whole team just kind of forces things a bit on offense, and Jaylen and Jayson start forcing things in traffic, and the catch and shoot guys start taking like some good looks instead of great looks. And you really start to see that in some of like the really deep catch and shoot threes that they'll take, like that are earlier in the clock, and they'll just go ice cold. And they went 13 for 50 from three tonight. And as is usually the case when you look at these games, like, they were 5 for 13 on the ones that Synergy logged as unguarded. That's 39%. That's not bad. But they were 8 for 37 on their pull-ups and on their contested catch and shoot threes. Now, that's obviously well below their normal average. We know they're capable of making those at a much higher clip, but they can have games like this from time to time where their shot selection is good, not great. That little bit of defensive juice that they typically have isn't quite there, and they're not able to control that end of the floor. And they end up dropping a game in the first round. And I thought that's what tonight looked like to me. And they typically respond well. Like, I expect the Celtics to come out in game three with an inspired defensive effort. I expect the Jays to be a little bit more focused on advantage creation to get the offense going rather than kind of looking for their own games. The only real tactical adjustment I expect from Joe Mazzulla is I think that nail help and the pinching off the corner against pick and roll is going to stop. And to put it simply, it's just about the math. This season, a Philly shot creator taking a shot in pick and roll as the ball handler is worth 0.89 points per attempt. This season, when Philly generates a spot up possession, it's worth 1.04 points per attempt. It's a pretty large gap. That's a 15-point gap over a 100 possession sample. So, like, it's another way of putting it is it's not worth stopping Maxey from getting downhill when you, first of all, have a big weighting at the basket and drop, and you're going to force him into some tough mid-rangers, which Maxey can go cold on. It ain't worth stopping Maxey from going downhill if you just create a super easy swing pass read to the wing or to the corner for an easy catch and shoot that they're just going to hit at a higher per shot value over any sort of large sample. But other than that, for the Celtics, it's really just about playing with more force on both ends of the floor.